Well, hey, I'm David, and I'm the host of In the Growth Space, and it's really great to have you here with us today. You know, if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that we've been talking about our Inner Circle Summit, and that was last week. And it's an event that we hold every year for our Inner Circle members and really also for people that are not yet members. And that event was incredibly successful, and I'm so grateful for our team that really helped pull it off amazingly. We had nearly 100 people in the room, and just wow. Wow, we had such impact. And the impact that I'm reading about in our surveys and really even the conversations that I had on the day has been just super gratifying. And needless to say, it was a huge success. And if you weren't in the room, I just want to invite you to keep listening and be a part of it in 2023. We'll let you know when we've got the next one scheduled. And I kept hearing how great it was to be in the energy of the room that was full of other leaders who really wanted to just focus on being well so that we could all lead well. We had time to think and interact and be with others and experience the power of what Napoleon Hill called the mastermind. And you know, because of that event and all the energy that our team needed for it, we decided that we were going to air an Encore episode that was a really impactful episode. And it was one of our most listened to episodes of season 1. So on today's episode, we have a conversation with Jason McKenzie, who is a business owner. He's also a philanthropist and just an all-around amazing human being. He's won numerous awards, and he's been recognized many times for his impact on the community that he serves and lives in, which, by the way, is Columbus, Georgia. And he's overcome a ton of adversity, all the while being very people-focused in his business and in his life. He shares his business growth success secrets with us today. And those success secrets are really vulnerable and really amazing to hear. And he answers the question, how do you serve your clients the best? And sometimes it takes our challenges in life to lead us to our high points. Our low points lead us to our high points. I loved the story that he shared about his Uncle Pete. And it was such a great story. You're going to hear it here in just a moment, but it's a great story to really help us pull through those tough times. And so as you're getting some time over the holidays to reflect on the year that you've had and also just looking ahead to the new year that we're about to begin, let this episode inspire you as you listen to Jason share about his own growth journey. He's had really so many great stories and thoughts about being resilient and successful. And Jason also talks about mentors and a positive outlook on life. Those are two really key themes that I picked up on as I listened to our conversation again. And he also talks about the beauty and power of having diverse people around us for our growth journey. I thought that was so impactful, and I'm going to have him on our podcast again real soon so that we can kind of just chat about that. And I loved what he had to say about that diversity of people around him. And as I re-listened to this episode, it just is so good. And as you listen to it, and even if you've heard the original episode, which by the way is season 1 and it's episode 45, but even if you've heard it before, gosh, please keep listening and listen to it again. And as you do, during and after the episode, let me just challenge you. Take some notes on what comes up for you. Ask yourself, what are some things from this conversation that you can take into the new year for your own personal growth journey? How can you be more resilient? Who's in your inner circle that can help you grow into the next version of yourself in 2023? And if you'd like to have some heart-centered leaders in your corner that will really push you and challenge you and support you and help you, go to my website, davidmcglennon.com, and let's just schedule a time to have a discovery call and just see if an inner circle group is right for you and where you might fit if it is. So for now, let's just get into my conversation with Jason McKenzie, who is the owner of Ride On Bikes and Ride On Adventures. Well, hey, Jason, welcome to In the Growth Space podcast. I'm so grateful to have you here this morning.
Hey, man, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So for those of the listeners who are just kind of tuning in for the first time, talk a little bit about your background and like what drives you as an entrepreneur, as a servant leader. What's behind that?
It's interesting that I'm in the bicycle business, but what I really found, I'm in the people business, and the bicycle shop is just a really good vehicle to help people. So what I found is my driving force is the relationships that I'm able to make, and then the change I get to make on people's lives. And, not only with my customer base, but the team that I get to work around every day. And then the relationships that just keep building off of that. So for me, there has to be money involved to allow to be able to make more influence. Right. But the main driver for me is the people.
Where did that come from? Just out of curiosity, like where did you get that?
It's a good question. I feel like that one of the biggest foundation pieces that were built for me that I'm so very fortunate to have is that my mother was that way. My mother has, she had a pawn shop on Victory Drive right here in Columbus. Yeah. Wow. Which you can imagine that wasn't the easiest of days, but
no, I'm sure not.
Yeah. And then my father had a, underground utility business, but it was still about, he always told me, he said, the deal is made on the golf course, not in the office. So understanding that, the relationships, and then my uncle, he's an entrepreneur as well as my grandparents who were here. So it was like being around them and seeing how my dad made people laugh and gain the trust. Yeah. And then what he could do with that, and the same thing, my mother ran a home for abused and neglected children for 10 years. Wow. And the difference that she made in people's lives, that, there's a ripple effect that she'll never know how big it is. Yeah. So I think it just came very honest. The apple doesn't fall very far from the tree.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, I think our early examples are so important to us. And I know that that's true for me as well. It's funny, you used a phrase that I think it's so funny you use this phrase, because my dad used to say it all the time too. The deal is made on the golf course. And my dad was a big golfer, and so he would come back from a golf outing and say, hey, check out this guy I met. And, from there I was like, oh my gosh, here's another deal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's really interesting that I have an adventure company right now, and we're traveling around the world doing fun stuff. And just last week, I was in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina area. Cape Hatteras, doing a kiteboarding trip. And man, the guys that I met on that trip, like I feel like there's some lifelong friendships that came out of it. Sure. And the things that I learned just listening to them talk, they're in a whole different realm of business than I am. And I had nothing. I didn't go there for that, but what's coming out of it, there's no telling how far it could go.
Yeah, that's so cool. We'll talk about your adventure business as well, because I'm so excited about that. I don't want to hear more about that. More curiosity than anything. How did you get into the bicycle business? How did you get into the bikes?
My uncle, really and truly, we were he had bought a building in downtown Columbus, uptown, I guess you'd call it now. Okay, yeah. And we were trying to figure out what to put in there. And thankfully, one of my favorite things that my family has done for me, they never squashed my dreams. So it doesn't matter still, I'll be 37 next month. And I had an idea for a $2.4 million airplane last week. And my uncle was like, well, let's put it on paper. It doesn't make any sense financially, but we could still put the idea on paper. How can we do it? And that's what we were doing. So we were out riding bikes around uptown one night, and this is 2002. 2003, right in that area. And we thought about a bike shop downtown, and we had the Riverwalk. It was real obvious to us. Now we look back and man, there should be a bike shop here. And then that was just the gist of it. It was a very small idea, had the space, saw the need. I'm not some incredible cyclist by any means. I've done Ironmans. I've done all the different things. I've done all the kind of races and stuff. But the truth is, I just really, really like riding my bicycle.
Love it. Yeah.
And I love sharing that with other people. I know if I can get you riding a bicycle, it can change your life. I know that.
Oh, for sure.
Not just from a physical, but from mental and your family and your relationship. It can do so much for you. So, I know there's other things that can do that, but the vehicle that I found was the bicycle shop. And, you can't really throw rocks at a bike shop.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, what are you upset about? It's green, it's healthy, it just goes on and on and on. Like, There's nothing to be upset about here. It's just good.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you could see how Jason's face lit up when he started talking about that, I mean, it's priceless. It's amazing. I can see it in your eyes. I love it. And you know, you're so right. I mean, getting on your bike, getting outside, nothing better. Nothing better. Oh, that's so amazing. So, like, talk a little bit, I guess, maybe about just let's go like with your business growth. Like, how has that grown? Like, what's been your secret to success, so to speak?
Sure. You know, I always, you know, I keep going back to it. I think making sure that your motive is correct, you know, and, you know, my motive has always been how many more people can I help? And that's, I got my degree in marketing because I realized that my reach was small and I wanted it to grow it. So how do you do that? Well, marketing seemed like the obvious way to do it. And, you know, when we look at it like that, when your motive is right, I just believe no matter what else you do, eventually you're going to fall back on your feet and keep hitting, you know, the right direction. I've made some crucial mistakes. I mean, there was at one point, I got set on a sales goal. Okay. This is what I want to do. And I was hitting the goals. Yeah. And, you know, you start looking at the bike shop, you know, give you an idea. We did $1.7 million. And I lost money that year. And I was like, what in the world? You know, it's just being young. How did they do that, right? Yeah. How do you screw this up so bad? And, you know, I'll never forget it. Just kind of give you an idea. But a guy came in for a large pair of black shorts. Normal. That happens every day. I go back to get them and I cannot find them. And I was so embarrassed. So that night I stayed late and I counted all my shorts. I had 408 pairs of shorts, black shorts. Oh my gosh. Not one pair of larges. Oh man. And I realized that, you know, I was trying to be everybody's bike shop. I had 9 bike brands, 12 clothing brands, all these things. I had way too much inventory. Yeah, of course my sales were up, but I had everything, you know? Yeah, sure. And I realized I'd made a mistake. So we literally rented a big tent and did a big sale and, you know, started over. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so it's, you know, I think that, you know, I know that it's a little off the tangent from what you're asking about, but it's like, no, it's great. You start, you know, you have a motive and you're starting to help people. And then there's a point you got to realize, like, man, if I keep trying to help everybody, I'm not going to be able to help anyone. Ah, so good. That's so good. I reeled it in and got really good at what I'm good at. You know, I have 1 or 2 bike brands, kind of depending on the season. I got 1 or 2 clothing brands and I'm just really, really good at it. And now I can serve my community way better than I used to. To me, what I'm hearing you say is really there's so much power in that focus and in being focused and not being everything to everybody, right? Right. Right. That's exactly right. You know, it's, I don't know if you're trying to be everybody, you know, everybody's bike shop or everybody's server or whatever, eventually you're not going to be able to help anyone. I love that. I mean, it's a great lesson. And I think that, you know, so oftentimes we think that our little like bumps in the road or our quote unquote failures are, you know, devastating, but really it's probably what has created your biggest success. Those bumps in the road have helped you to grow to where you are today. I'm assuming, right? Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, I know this isn't like my belief. I know there's a lot of Buddhism, there's a lot of things that say this, but you know, I wear a bracelet with a yin yang sign on it. And it's a reminder to me. I believe in, I can only experience as much joy as I've had pain. Yeah. And I can only experience as much success as I've had failure. Mm-hmm. So I believe if we really understood that the way that I think it is, that in our lowest points, we'd be grateful, you know, because when I've had that business where it wasn't paying me and I'm struggling, I don't know. Yeah. I realize there's also a high point that's coming with that if I can stick it out. And definitely my lowest points have created. I mean, even when I've had teams that weren't good at the bike shop, I made mistakes, you know, on hiring. I am so grateful today as we speak. I have the best team I've ever had in my entire career. Amazing. But I don't know if I'd even know that if I hadn't had a bad one. Yeah, right. That makes sense what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like absolutely. It's, I mean, I think, I mean, in a lot of ways, you're describing that law of polarity. You know, you don't know there's an up unless you know there's a down. You don't know there's a left unless you know there's a right. And so, you know, and I love that perspective of just being grateful no matter where you are, because I think that when we're grateful, that changes our perspective and it really allows us to really kind of widen our view and really be able to see what opportunities we have in front of us. So I think that's a great lesson, Jason. That's awesome. It's hard in the moment, you know. I will say when you're in that real dark place, It's real hard in the moment, you know.
Oh, I totally agree, man. You know, I know that you've had struggles and you've had tough times and tough, you know, it's not like everything's been, you know, sunshine and rainbows. And right. So, I mean, how did you get through some of those, you know, difficult times in your life?
I felt sorry for myself a lot. And sure. Then I kind of got in that spot where, you know, I felt at the time that no one else had gone through what I had gone through. I'll share a story with you. I have a great Uncle Pete. It's my mom's uncle, so my grandfather's brother. And Uncle Pete had lost all 3 of his children at 3 different times.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Right. And Uncle Pete was the most positive person I ever met in my life. And I remember my darkest time, I drove to his house and I knocked on his door and I was like, Uncle Pete, I've got to talk to you. So we went to lunch. He was in his 80s at the time. And I said, you know, you've been through so much worse than me, yet you have a positive outlook on life and I can't get out of bed in the morning. I don't understand. And, you know, he said, he was from the Navy, so he said something kind of gross, but he said, son, life can be a box of chocolates. I'm sorry. Life can be a box of cherries as long as you can pass the seeds.
That's great.
And I was like, what in the world? But then he turned it on me and he said, Jason, you got to snap out of it. You know, your job in this family is to keep the pieces together. And this moping around and all, he said, you're hurting your mom, your uncle, and your brother. And I got to tell you, if anybody else in the world would have said that to me, I would have been pissed. Like, do you know what I've been through? But I asked his opinion. He's been through much worse than me. So I didn't say anything and I walked away. And what I learned is what he was doing. It took me a long time. He knew I would do anything in the world for my uncle, my mom, and my brother. And I wouldn't do it for myself. And I don't necessarily know this is the healthiest thing, but I faked it for a while. I faked, you know, I started dating again. I started doing some things that I didn't really want to do, and just to make my mom feel like I was doing well. And, you know, sure enough, man, it started the waves of, you know, depression and stuff got further and further apart. And what I finally dawned on me is that everyone has a story.
Yeah.
It's not easy for anyone, man. Life is hard, and I'm not an exception, and neither are you. I don't know your story, for example, but I know it hasn't been easy. So what happened to me is when I see somebody, especially if I'm down, and I'll say people watch a lot. And if I see someone, I don't have to even know your name. I'll be sitting in a restaurant and I see you got a nice shirt on today and you're over there making somebody laugh in the corner, and it inspires me because I know your life hasn't been easy. And somehow you got it together today to get up, to go outside. You have a job, apparently. You're here at a restaurant, buying a cup of coffee, whatever it is. And for me, I just use that as fuel every day. When I see somebody that is just, it doesn't have to be super successful, you know, financially or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that you succeeded today and you got out and did something. That makes me feel like I can do it. So that was like a little life hack for me, is I watch other people get inspired by them.
That's so great, Jason. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I'm with you. I mean, I think watching people is so interesting. And even though you may not necessarily know their story, you know that everybody has a story. And I love that. That's so good. So good. You know, something you said a moment ago when you went to talk to your Uncle Pete, it made me think about mentors and just people around you. How important has that been in your life, in your growth journey? And who do you have surrounding you right now?
You know, I think that it's like, if you don't have somebody to keep you in check and to keep you inspired, I don't know how in the world you keep growing. You know, you got to be self-motivated, but to me, it's been huge. It's been absolutely huge. You know, and there's different levels of mentor and different things. You know, I have some people that I lean on very heavily for like my relationships and like my relationship with God and things like that. I have friends that's who I can communicate with on that level. Then I have business mentorship, you know, and it's not that, I think a lot of that overlaps. But if I see somebody that is successful in the way that I want to be successful, I think that's a big thing, right? What is your definition of success?
That's so true.
A huge question, you know. I'll tell you, I have a good friend, Jason Gamache, and I don't know if you know him.
I don't.
But, he's been super successful here in Columbus, and he's ahead of me. If you heard me say this, it's because he's older than me, but that's not,
okay.
But
I like the way you say that, just being ahead of you, right?
Yeah.
That's all good. I like it.
But, you know, I remember early on when I started having a little bit of success, and then people started talking bad about me. You know what I mean? I would hear like this trash talk a little bit, and I called him. I'm like, man, and I was like upset about it. You know, my feelings were hurt, and I could hear him in the background clapping. I was like, what are you clapping about? He said, man, you're not doing anything until people start talking bad about you.
I love it.
And I was like, what? He's like, man, you got to use that as fuel, man. That's exciting. You're making a difference.
Yeah.
And I remember like, golly, man, I've never thought about it like that. So that's just like one example of one mentorship that he gave me, because he was already ahead of the game a little bit, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And he knew that was going to happen. And Lord have mercy as it happened. You know, like if you have you want to get some enemies, just win a couple of awards. That's all you got to do.
Right. Right. Yeah. No doubt. Oh
yeah.
My
So
gosh.
I think the mentorship, you know, my father passed away July 3rd of last year. And that was there's a gap now, you know, of someone that I could lean on from. He just taught me so much about just hard work and like doing the right thing when no one's looking, no matter what. You know, you would never even know it was him. He just had that ability to have that drive. Like, I don't know. I looked at him. I just never seen somebody could work circles around me as hard as I was working. Yeah. And, you know, having that mentor in my life was a huge, huge thing. And then my mother, who just has this heart, you know, that's like unreal. And I can come to her now. I'm glad she's on my team, because her heart, it's really strong. But when, you know, as long as you're on her team.
I was going to say, you don't want to cross her, it sounds like, right?
You don't, you know, she worked at a pawn shop in Victory Drive. You don't want to cross her.
She can take care of herself.
My uncle, I was telling you about, you know, he's had, you know, some successful businesses, some failures, obviously. And I lean on him a whole lot. I mean, we talk daily, and just having that bounce ideas. You know, just this past week, I said, you know, his name's Buddy. I was like, Uncle Bud, I just need to be pissed off for a minute. I just need to talk to you, and not about you, but about some other things that are going on. And I know I'm off base right now, but I'm just really frustrated. And I would just like to like lose my mind for like 20 minutes and just know that it's going to be okay. He was like, all right, let's go. And it's just having that person that I can just say things off the wall and then calm down and go into the meeting I have to go to. You know?
Yeah, right. It's nice to have people like that. I mean, it really is. Yeah.
The mentorship for me it's everything, and I use it to the full. It doesn't mean I agree with everything we talk about, of course, but just having that thing I can lean on. Chris Woodruff and I, you know, we talk about Christianity a whole lot.
Sure.
And we disagree, man. We don't always agree on the same thing. But that's the best part, you know, is that he doesn't think the same way I do. And we've done some experiments where we'll like read something, you know, out of the Bible or whatever. And then we just talk about it. And it's so wild how he'll see it completely different than me. A different interpretation. Right. So I think the mentorship, like I said, in every direction, having a person or people is super important.
Yeah. How important is it to have people like that, though, in your life who may see things differently than you do? Let's face it. We need to be able to learn how to have differing vantage points and respect each other's perspective, but also hear each other as well. So I guess, you know, just going back to my question, like, how important is that to you to be able to have people around you that don't agree with you?
I prefer having people disagree than agree with me. You know, I really do. Yeah. If you're just like me, then how are we ever going to grow?
Yeah.
You know, I don't need somebody that's thinking the way I think. Now, there's certain values, obviously.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know, I need the values to align, and I'm not even held up on like that. You have to be a Christian for us to be friends. Like, you may have a perspective that I can learn. I think you can learn from everybody.
Absolutely.
But you know, I think that I love that there's adversity within my friendships. I mean, my best friend in the world, you know, we are so different. And I mean, I literally broke my hand on his face somewhere along our relationship. It's like that. We have physically fought, you know, as younger, obviously. We've been friends 30 years now. And but if I was in trouble anywhere in the world, he's my phone call. He's going to be pissed when he gets there.
I love it.
But you know, he's my best friend, and the adversity is what built that strength,
isn't it?
And I feel like that even in my relationships, you know, with a spouse or anything, you don't need somebody that thinks just like you. Well, how boring is that?
No doubt. And it's interesting. I never used to think that way, but I've changed my mind and really come to realize how beautiful it is to have somebody that doesn't think like me, because you're right. How boring would that be? Oh my gosh. Yeah. How important is it in your business to have people that don't think like you, and then maybe even give you feedback that's not super pleasant? Because I know there are a lot of leaders that probably we're talking to right now that don't want to hear it. It's like, hey, I don't want to hear those differing perspectives, but so often that's exactly what we need to hear. And so I guess I'm just kind of curious around your business, how important that is for you.
Well, it's one of the hardest things about business for me is that, that bike shop is my child. Yeah. And when you start criticizing it, man, it's like you're calling my kid ugly.
Right.
And I can literally still today, even though I know it's good, I can feel my heart start racing a little bit.
Sure,
I'm like, man, get it together, Jason. They're trying to help you. You've asked for this.
Yeah.
But, right now, when you look at the team that I have at the bike shop, it is so diverse. I mean, from age all the way to race, to sex, everything's so different. So you can imagine a staff meeting that we have is like, I never know what they're going to say. And they have completely different perspective. And, like I'm a dreamer, I'm a big picture guy. I love the influencing people to do things and to motivate. I am not a bean counter. I am the worst bookkeeper you've ever laid eyes on. I'm terrible, and inventory and things like that. But thankfully, I have people on my team that are really, really good at that. I have David in the back. He's my service manager, and I've never had anybody like him that has the ability to turn out work like he does. With every single time he touches a bike, there's a level of care behind it. And he stands in that one spot all day. He can get out and, talk to people. He has the people skills to do it. But the ability to drive and work like he does, as hard as he does, with care every day, it just blows my mind, man. And like to have somebody that's on the team that we get to work together, I'm just so grateful. And then you have Ian, he's an engineer. He has his master's in engineer working at the bike shop because he loves bicycles so much. And his perspective when he sees things is so different than mine. We're working on a big project right now. I'm so excited about it. Maybe we'll get to be back on one day when I can get it out of the bag.
Oh yeah. Love it.
Having an engineer on your team that sees things differently, and he can, all I can see is what I want the product to be. And he's like, well, if you did this angle like this, you could get it like that,
Interesting.
And then Carlos is in his 60s and was a very, very big wig at Univision for a long time.
Yeah. Wow.
He don't have to work. You know what I mean? He chooses to be in there, and his perspective is mind-blowing. He's literally the most interesting man in the world. I swear. I've never met anybody as like him. That's great. Kim in the back, who does inventory, man, her relentless, like her efficiency and how she works and just never lets up. So like having that around you, and my brother is my manager, my younger brother, how he cares for people. It's so funny. He's the nice brother. Everyone says, everybody likes your brother more than you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm well aware everybody likes my brother more than me. But his ability to care for people and make them laugh when they walk in the door, and how I don't care if you are overweight or if you're short or tall or whatever. When you walk in the door, my brother Sean makes you feel so welcomed.
That's great.
And it's like, I don't know. When you start seeing that, the diversity in the team, but the overall value that we're here to help people and we're here to care, I think it's really, there's no value. I can't really put a value on it.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard you talk a lot in this conversation about family, aunts, your uncles, your mom, your brother. How important is family to your success and really just in your life?
So family has different definitions sometimes,
Sure.
You got your blood, and then, I have family that I work with that I spend more time with than I do with my actual family. I feel very fortunate that I'm this close to my family. I mean, I eat a meal with my mom almost every day. I feel super close to her, and I'm able to open up and talk to her. Again, I told you about my uncle. And what I love about having family close to me like this, my brother and I, he is one of my most difficult relationships, right? It's just tough.
Sure.
But it's because I love him so much.
Yeah.
And I know he loves me the same. But what I know 100%, regardless of what it looks like, my mom, my uncle, and my brother, who I've brought up several times already, they're on my team, no matter what it looks like at the moment.
Sure. Yeah.
My uncle may have like some way lesson he's trying to teach me that I don't understand yet, and it's pissing me off.
Yeah.
But I know he's on my team, so I can take a deep breath. And even if it was a mistake, I know it was an honest mistake. And having that, I don't, again, the value is, there's nothing you can put on that. So for me, being close to family and having that ability for my brother and I to get in an argument and know on the other side that we're going to be fine. And that he knows that I'm on his team as well. And for me, it's one of the big reasons I still live in Columbus. I just love being close to them. And I can't imagine like being across the world and something happened to me, not be able to be here for them,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and yeah, I know you mentioned that your father passed away last year, and I'm sure it had to be at least great to be able to be there, with him and with the family during that time.
Yeah, it's that's one of the things that I'm so very grateful for. He actually moved in with me, him and my mom. They're still together. They moved in with me for the last little over a year of his life, and so getting to cook breakfast for him every morning. I took his favorite show is Family Feud. I got to take him to an episode of that, like a live episode of it.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, cool. And it was such a joy for him. He worked so hard his entire life, and then when he wasn't able to anymore, I was trying to help find joy, because that was how he did. He shared his love by providing.
Yeah.
And so I had to keep that exciting, and keep it going for him.
Yeah.
And being here for him, and being here with my mom while she is still transitioning, still working through that, and my brother as well. We had Father's Day here recently, and it's the first one, and so we spent the day together. Went to the movies and tried to do things we thought Dad would appreciate.
Yeah.
And being close, I just can't imagine like having to go through that without them, on my side, and they gave me something to be strong for. Right. So being there for my mom and my brother during that, it gives me a reason to get up in the morning, because they're so important to me. And if I can't help them, then I don't know why I would get up either.
Sure. Yeah. They become your why. I mean, that's your purpose. And I love that, man. That's so cool. Yeah. I've talked to a number of different business owners and business leaders, and I always love it when I hear, the family connection and the family ties, especially. And I know family business is difficult. I grew up in a family business, and, there's all kinds of different dynamics in your relationships and things that you have to navigate that are really hard sometimes. But at the end of the day, they're still family. And like you said, I mean, it gives you that purpose and that drive. I'd love to just kind of switch gears on you for just a second and go back to your adventure. I love to go on adventures, and I have this group of guys that we call them a free dog trip. And, we're doing, crazy things and fun things, a lot of adrenaline involved, a lot of stupidity sometimes, but still, that's what makes it fun, right? Where did you get your adventure? And I'd love to hear about some of your adventure trips.
Sure. It kind of started, of dealing with depression. I've always been adventurous, but what I found is that when I'm in that middle, if you're an adrenaline junkie, you understand this. When I race motorcycles every other weekend, and when that flag raises, I'm not thinking about my business, my relationship, my family, nothing. I'm in that moment right then, and that's addicting. And I get a break from all my thoughts, and I feel like I'm on the other side clear. It's like a meditation for me. Yeah. So the adventure side happened like that, and I had a friend that I told you earlier, Chris Woodruff. He invited me to go surfing in Costa Rica. I didn't know how to surf, and we went out there. And the second day, I looked at him. I said, "Man, maybe I'm not a surfer. Maybe that's all it is." But then the fourth day, I caught my first green water wave, out past the break, and that feeling that only lasted, I don't know, 8 or 9 seconds. It was an amazing feeling, and I was like, "Man, I would love to share this with people." Cool. I don't have a whole lot of money, so I'm looking at it as like, man, how can I come here more often? How can I do more adventures? And the only thing, if I was rich, however, whatever that is to you, if I was financially rich, the only thing I would do differently, I would still live in the house I live in. I still have my German Shepherd who's with me now. Still drive the truck that I drive. The only thing I would do differently is do more adventures. That's it. Well, when I started this adventure company, it's like I'm rich. Yeah. It pays for my adventures, That's so cool. And my favorite thing when a girl that I know real well now, I didn't know her very well at the time, Chris Dixon's her name. When I saw her catch her first wave in Costa Rica, a girl from, lives over in Eufaula, Alabama. And she came up like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" That's so cool. Man, it was better than me catching a wave, sharing that and giving the controls of my airplane to a kid for the first time and seeing his eyes light up. Or seeing somebody catch the kite just right the first time and get up on the kite board. And I could go on and on, like seeing that and seeing that joy that comes with it. It's so, I get right now, all of my hair just stood up hard. I get so freaking pumped. I love it, to see somebody do it, teaching a kid to ride a bicycle, it goes on and on. So it is about, yes, I get my adventures are paid for, but the gist of it, I could do another job and pay for my adventures. Sharing it with people is everything. So I don't know if that resonates as much, with the question you're asking, but that's what it's about for me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love hearing that. And I love the fact that you found a way to be able to create those adventures that you get to experience them, but then you get to share them as well. I mean, that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, tell me a little bit about how can people get in touch with you? How can people find out, about your upcoming adventures? And because I'm sure that some people listening, I'm sure are going to want to know about this.
Yeah. So, we have Ride On Bikes, and you can always rideonbikes.com. The website's good. We're good on, Instagram and Facebook, of course, but Ride On Adventure is so rideonadventure.com is the website for the adventure company. We had a year off with COVID.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
14 months. We had to postpone all of the trips, but we're back at it. We went to Costa Rica in April. We went to Cape Hatteras last month. We're actually going on a mountain bike trip. We're mountain biking from Telluride, Colorado to Moab, Utah, the end of July.
Oh, I love it.
It's really cool. We got these huts we're going to be getting in. So we got a group of guys doing that one. And it's interesting. I honestly thought my business was going to be all guys hanging out, like you said.
Yeah.
That's all about marketing. That's what I thought. It's almost all women.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So anyway, hanging out with a bunch of women in Costa Rica is a tough job, but
somebody's going to do it, right?
But yeah, so and me personally, I have Jason at rideonadventure.com is a good way, or any of the social media platforms. And I love connecting with people and talking with people and hearing people's business ideas. And I'm constantly open to chat anytime. So.
Oh man, I love that, Jason. Just as you shared your adventure of the one where you're going to ride from Telluride to Moab, like I flashed for a second because I had that group of buddies of mine. We were planning to do that. Is it a hut to hut where you're?
Yeah, that's it.
Go ahead. Yeah. We were planning to do that, and we had some bad weather, so we had to kind of change course, so to speak. And we were in Telluride and in Ouray around that area. Some great riding there.
Love
oh my
it.
gosh. Yeah, it's awesome. But great adventures, man. We'll definitely be talking after we get off the air here. All right. Hey, thank you so much for sharing your story, because I think that, as we talked before we went on the air here, I think there's so much value in hearing other people's stories and hearing other people's journeys and their values and their struggles and really their kind of their principles for life, so to speak. And I think that you've really done a great job of sharing that with the audience today. And I really do appreciate that, because for me, it's all about learning and growing and finding ways that we can grow too. And so I hope that the people who are listening today have really captured, Jason's thrill for adventure, but also commitment to people as well, because I think that that's something that's really key. I know it's key for me, and it's really meaningful for me.
Yeah. It for me is, if I don't get the opportunity like you've given me here to share the story, and then all the pain and everything that we went through is like in vain, it was wasted. And I'm not willing to do that. Been through too much just to act like it didn't happen. So if I can share any part of my story and help people, then it makes everything we've gone through in the past, worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jason, thank you for being on here today. I know this probably won't be the last time we talk. I know that for sure. And thanks for sharing a little bit about your journey and just really being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for that. Thanks a lot, man. Have a great day.
There were so many takeaways from this conversation, and I just absolutely loved so many things that Jason shared today. And really, the one thing that popped out was that no matter what industry you're in, you are in the people business, and that relationships are going to be your driver to growth. So if you want to grow your business, you need to create relationships. You need to work on relationships, and you are in the people business. Now, the other thing that really stuck out to me was his power of belief and this magic of thinking big. I just got done rereading The Magic of Thinking Big, and it just popped into my mind as soon as he said something about putting an idea down on paper for a $2.5 million airplane. And that just shows that he's a big thinker, and he's willing to live in the land of possibility. And that is an amazing leader. And that's a leader who's going to grow his company and grow his people. The other thing that he said that I thought was really powerful is that, when your motive is right, it really helps growth, and it really drives growth. And then getting focused on what you're good at and narrowing who you're serving really makes an awful lot of sense. And the other thing, and I can relate to this totally, is that our challenges help create our highest points. So our lowest points also help create our highest points. And I thought that was and is so true. The other thing that he said was gratitude changes our perspective. The thing that came to my mind when he was talking about his Uncle Pete is everybody's got to be an Uncle Pete, stay positive. And our perspective really does drive our outcomes. The other thing, too, is that everyone has a story. So everyone you meet has a story. The person in the grocery store that just ran into your cart has a story. The person driving down the highway and cutting you off has a story. Keeping people around us that see life differently, that's going to be the key to being able to grow ourselves and see things from different perspectives. And it's such an important thing to have a diversity of thought around your leadership. So just as by way of again, sharing how to get in touch with Jason, he can be reached at rideonbikes.com, rideonadventure.com, and Jason at rideonadventure.com is his email address. Make sure that you connect with Jason. I can't wait to talk with him more about his adventures because that's my kind of deal, man. I love it. So thank you so much for listening in to this episode and making it here to the end and just allowing me to kind of recap our conversation. Make sure you go out and subscribe. Please give us a 5-star review and rating. We just want to reach more people with really the message that we can live in that growth space. We can get outside of our comfort zone. And so until next time, remain in that growth space and be well.